Hey y'all, we are going to paint a flower today. I'm going to teach you how to create some depth in your flowers, and you guys let me know that you can see and hear everything okay. I've got a little different setup. Hopefully this will help me to be able to talk to you, and you'll be able to see my table at the same time. Let's see. I'm going to look on my phone and see if it looks like I'm actually live. And, yep, there I am. Okay. So, everybody's saying they can see and hear fine, so I'm glad to hear that. That's great. Okay, I'm going to leave my phone over here so I can see my comments over here, and we're going to do some flower painting. If you've been following me lately, you probably have seen this painting and several others. I did this one not too long ago, and this one. This one is actually, I'm going to do a full tutorial on this painting here tomorrow in my creative community. Today what we're going to do is I'm going to help you, let me put these down. I'm going to help you to do something similar to this flower right here. All these little white flowers that are not actually white, those are going to be what we're going to work on today. And so I've just got a few colors here. This is something that you can do using a wide variety of colors. Once I show you how to do it, then you can start playing around with other colors and seeing what happens when you do that. But I've got several things I want to show you that I think will help you to create more depth in your flowers, and also to help you to turn your flowers in different directions. So like for this one, for example, this flower is turned this way. This one's facing forward. These are turned that direction. So a lot of times I've noticed that some of my students have a lot of trouble with this. So good afternoon, everybody. I'm glad you're all here. A lot of times all of their flowers will be turned in one direction. So I'm gonna give you some little tips about that, and we're gonna paint some of these flowers similar to these little white ones like this, and I'll show you how to get more depth when you're painting. First thing I want to show you though is this. It's artificial flowers, I know, but if you notice, they're all turned in different directions. Let me move this so maybe you can see those pink flowers a little better. This is a great way for you to have a reference without having real flowers. You don't have to buy, real flowers that are going to die. Other than a photo reference, this is something that you could use to help you to get a little bit more variety in the ways that you're turning your flowers and painting them. So let's just look at these. For an example, I'm going to try to figure out what's the best way for me to do this. This one, if you're looking at it from this camera here, it is a straight shot of it. This one here is turned really wonky and strange. If you were looking at it from this angle, you can see they're just all turned in different directions. And when I saw this in the store, I was like, that is a perfect tool for teaching, to show you how. Can you see it in the little, I've got my little frame at the top to teach you how to do this. So I really think we're going to use this as sort of our guide. I'm going to try to figure out, it's a really long branch here, so I'm going to bend it and try to make it shorter. Okay, so I'm going to lay this down over here. I'm using a mixed media pad. So when I practice painting, I like to use mixed media paper, and that way I don't feel like I'm wasting a canvas or wasting supplies or anything like that. This is my practice paper. So we're gonna do a few flowers in a few different positions. And let me see, I gotta find my scoop. I'm gonna get out some white, and I'm gonna use some blue, and you can use any color blue you want to use for this. Some yellow ochre. I just bought a new tube of this because I use it so much. Some sap green. And a little bit of burnt umber, which is just dark brown. And I don't need very much of it, so I'm just gonna get out a little bit of it, if I can get out any at all. I need to clean the end of my tube. It's dried up. Okay. So let's go with something that looks like this flower here. Now, when I started painting this, I mapped out where my flowers were gonna live on my painting, and then I painted in most of my background, and so I'm leaving this spot sort of white. The canvas was white there, and when I map out my flowers, I'm gonna be using just like a little angled brush. When I map them out, I'm gonna use a color that is opposite on the color wheel from the color that I want my flower to actually be. So I want my flower to actually be a white, creamy, almost yellow. So I'll use my color wheel and I will look to see what is the opposite of yellow, and that could be anything over here in this violet blue range. So I chose blue, and I'm gonna look at this flower here, and I'm just gonna kind of get an idea of the shape of it using blue. Okay. And then let's look at this flower here, this one here, and I'm going to do the same thing with it. We're just going to do two different flowers using blue. This is a really, really rough idea of what that flower's shape is. So you're going to want to look at the outside shape, the edges of the outside first. Whoops. Hang on a minute. Okay, and now I'm going to wash my brush off. And I'm going to let this dry for just a second. You don't necessarily have to let it dry completely, but it will help if you let it dry just a little bit. And while that is drying, I'm going to take a little bit of some yellow ochre and white. And I'm going to go back over this with that yellow and white. Same for this. This time I am just making short little swipes. So I've got a little bit of yellow and a little bit of white on my brush, and I'm just going back over where I had put down that blue. Now I'm going to show you, this one over here is, the blue was still wet, so it's still got a good bit of blue in it, which is fine, because that's what's going to give you some of that depth that you're looking for. let me show you, while this dries just a little bit, let me show you what would happen if we tried to just do, if we tried to do this without using the blue in the background. So let's say I'm painting something white on a white background, and I want my flower about right here. Okay, so you can kind of immediately see that there's not a lot of variation in color here. It's just one flat color. It's going to be super hard to even try. I mean, you can keep adding some white in there if you wanted to, but it's just going to really make a flat white flower. And it took me a while to get to the point where I understood this myself. So don't stress about it. Just continue to try things, test it out, and see what happens. All right, so we started out with our blue, the shape of the flower. Then we added a little bit of this yellow, ochre, and white. And now we're just going to continue to layer more and more paint. And the last layer is going to be the lightest layer. So as you're mixing your colors, you don't need to just grab straight white and put it down immediately, because that's just going to wash the whole flower out. It's just going to be a flat white flower. So what we need to do is continue to build those layers of color. And let's look at this one again for an example. I don't know if you can see, but this white flower is not really white in most places. So there's a lot of yellow back behind it that you can see. These 4 petals right here are the lightest. Those are the ones that we'll put in last. But right now we're going to go around and we're going to shape these flower petals that are around the outside edge of this. So let's work on this one. And in my original, I had a little bit of sap green and a little bit of yellow ochre and some white. Okay, and I don't mix it so that it is completely mixed. This mixture has a little bit of variation in it. And so now we're going to go in and just shape some little petals. They have like a little pointed edge or tip. And then these are going to become our background petals. So you're building it up in layers. And you don't want to over blend it either. You don't want to keep going over it and over it and over it with your brush, blending, 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 because that's what gives it the variation. Okay? So I'm going to wash my brush off. And let's pick up more white and just kind of put it down in this mixture here. So it's going to have mostly white and a little bit of that greenish gold. And then we're going to go back and make some petals kind of in between these. So we'll have one there. And notice I'm holding my brush like this. It makes it easier to be loose. I need some extra white. Also, acrylic paint dries darker, so keep that in mind while you're doing this, okay? So now we've got the blue and then this darker color that is kind of a greenish white, and then we've got our lighter white petals there. Okay, and then the center, I'm still using this angle brush. I'm just going to pick up a good bit of this yellow ochre and tap some little spots in the middle there. I'm going to wipe that off. And I'm going to grab some of my burnt umber, my dark brown, and do the same. Okay. So now let's go over here to this flower. I don't know if you can see this one very well, but there's a lot more depth in the color in this one than there would be if we just did a straight flat flower. All right, so let's go back over here to this one. It's the one we were doing that looks similar to this. And so in order, can you see this? I don't know if you can see this or not. In order for you to get a look that is not just an open flat flower, you got to shorten some of the petals. So what we're going to do, I'm just going to use this right here, some of that brown, some of that yellow, and some of the green. So this petal in the back is sticking up pretty proudly. Then this one here is shorter, and it's not going to be as wide as that one. Then this petal here in the front, it actually curves around and then comes down. So you're going to need to have a darker spot underneath and then some lighter spot here. And we'll come back and work on that in just a minute and make the center of that show up a little better. And then this petal over here is just a little bit turned. So I'm trying to explain this and do it at the same time. The center of your flower is going to need to be darker. Well, it depends on the shadows and the light, but in this one, the center down here is darker. And the flower that I'm using has a lot of pink in it, but I'm not using pink today. So you can go back with a little bit of brown and darken the spots that would be underneath. And then we're going to put in the center, which is green. It's got a lot of green. And then it's got a yellow top on it. I just dropped my phone. It's fine. Okay, so we've got our center. This petal is not making me happy. So we're just going to do this. Okay. Alright, and go around with some dark green. Okay, then we'll come back to that one in just a minute. So letting these layers kind of dry in between is something that is very helpful. And also having a background color that's going to help you to really make these show up. So in our original painting over here, our background is black. So I'm going to take out a little bit of black and just cut around this one and show you how it's going to make it really show up. And this is usually how I do flowers, because I can shape up the whole flower after the fact if I wanted to, and kind of cut in some edges here and there. let's do that around this one too while we're at it. So when you are doing this, it makes it sort of look like it's going to get muddy and not so pretty when you're mixing these colors. But when you come back at the end with your white, it's going to make all the difference. So just be patient with me just a minute. Okay. That makes them show up a little bit. Where's my top? A little bit better. I'm gonna grab my phone that I dropped and hope that it's not broken. Okay. Okay, it's looking good. I'm gonna pull down my camera just a little bit and hopefully, let me switch over, hang on. Hopefully it will help you to see a little better. Okay. Probably should have started out this way, but I'll remember that for next time. Okay. So what we've got here so far is a white flower that's not white. So this one is mostly green and yellow, and we're going to come back in there. This is what I mean by layers. There's just so much layering in here that is going to give you more depth. I think I want a little more yellow. And painting on paper is different from painting on canvas because paper tends to kind of suck up all of your paint. It makes it a little bit harder. Okay, let's move over here to this one. Let's go back and just brighten it up just a little in a few spots. And I don't know if you can see it or not, but there's a tiny bit of blue that is peeking through in all these areas, which makes a big difference. I need some more white. Okay. Okay, so now I'm going to put in the brightest brights, which is going to be a lot of white and a tiny bit of yellow. We're going to go back and do this again. You may want to shape up the tips of some of the petals that you've gone around with the black. Okay, and I need some more dark brown. which is not coming out. It's probably gonna come flying out in a minute. Everywhere. Hang on a minute. I'm just gonna use my hand. There we go. These lids on the golden paint are not my friends. Okay. Right, let's get some of that white off. We're gonna put in some really dark brown. And then some more yellow and some white. Okay, so this one over here. Now let's pick up just some extra white and lighten up some of these edges. And then go back in here with our green and our yellow and just kind of make that center part, maybe a little bit of brown down here around the base of it. Okay, so if you can see this here, this one has a little more color than this one. So it's not going to turn out the same every single time I do this. This one here has some more blue that's coming through. This one here, let's do one like this. Let's see. I can do it over here. So with that one, it was mostly burnt umber and white. And so I just kind of did something like this with the burnt umber and the white. Just a shape of a flower. Very basic shape. Usually the center is the part that really makes it look like a flower. I'm not 100% happy with this one right here, y'all. I think I tried too hard, which is something that is very easy to do. Gotta kind of loosen up and not try so hard. Anyway, I'm going to redeem myself with this one over here. Okay, so for this one we started out with just the burnt umber and the white. So there's not really an under painting over here on this one. It was in the original one. It was kind of drawn out with a little bit of blue. So let's just put a little bit of blue in there. But I'm going to pick up a good bit of white and we're just going to make these smaller petals here. Okay. And then the center of it is really the part that helps it pull it all together. So I'm going to use just sap green and make a circle right here in the middle of it. really dark. And then on this one, if you can see, I went around that circle with some yellow. So I'm going to grab some yellow and white. And we're going to just tap around that. And then I'm going to wipe that brush and grab just some bright white and tap that in between a few of these spots. Just like that. I'm happier with this one than I am with that one. Let's go around it with some dark paint. I've got burnt umber here, so I'll just use it. Okay, so that really stands out a little better. And you can continue to put some more layers in there if you wanted to, in a few spots to darken up some, just make some separation in the petals. And also the tips where you went in with your background if you wanted to. Okay, so pull it all together. When you're painting flowers, there needs to be layers of color, especially when you're painting white flowers. So it may be that you are starting with a blue and you're building up to like a golden color. Or it may be that you're starting with a gold, or in this case this was yellow ochre, and you're building up to make a cooler colored flower that would be like a light blue. Either way, that's the best way to get more depth and just a variety of color in your flowers, especially when you're doing something that is supposed to be white. Because you can see this one here is the one we did that was really flat, that has basically no depth at all. Even if I tried adding some more to it, this one, I think this one over here turned out the best. I like this one the best of all of these. But these are the kinds of flowers that I add in addition to kind of like my showstoppers, my bigger, more colorful flowers. So things like this and this would be added to a painting where, let me move this up, where you've got, you know, bigger flowers like these. This is more kind of like filler, but they still need to have some depth. This one here is one of my favorites to paint. Let's do one of those and then we'll call it done for today. So with that one, sorry, there's a loud truck outside. With that one, I would use a flat paintbrush And start with some blue. Let me wet my brush a little bit. I'm gonna start with some blue. Let's see, I'm gonna do this one. Let's try to do it over here. Actually, let's do it over here. But it's gonna be pointing that way. So we're gonna have the center, then petals coming out like this. And then on this side, these petals are much shorter. So it's almost like a straight line down, and these are going to come out like that. Just come back down. Okay, I'm gonna wash out my brush. And we're gonna pick up some yellow ochre and white. And just very quickly make some swipes of that light yellow. Okay, I'm going to put in a dark center. This is burnt umber. Okay, so it's kind of like a little dome in there. It's rounded center. Wash my brush again. And then I'm going to just pick up some bright white and do the same thing we did with the yellow. I'm putting it on really thickly. But back here, our petals are, they're not, you know, big and sticking out everywhere over here like they are over here. They're just going to be straight lines on this side. And then I'm going to take a little bit of yellow and just tap it in that center part. A little bit of white too. And now let's go around that one with some dark paint, and I'll show you. That one's really gonna probably be the best demonstration. And when you do this, you can kind of cover up a little bit of that blue that you've got in there if you want to. You don't have to. And then of course, greenery always helps it to look a lot more realistic too. So adding a little bit of even just a swipe of green here, just the impression of a leaf, that's going to help all of these. Okay, so we've got one that's turned this direction, one that's turned this direction, a couple that are kind of facing us, and I hope that this helped you to see how you can take color and layer it and get more depth, especially in your white flowers. And this applies to just about any color that you want to try. So what I would recommend is that you experiment. Don't just do exactly what I did and then stop there. Do what I did and then try something else. So you may want to try this using reds or purple or just about any color on the color wheel that are opposites. Should work really well. You just build up the layers beginning with the opposite color, then the color you want the flower to basically be, and then you lighten it as you continue to add to it. So let me see. I'm going to try to read some comments and see what you guys are saying. Holly was asking if she could watch later. Yes, it's going to be. I'm going to actually put this on YouTube. Bonnie says, would oil colors be the same? When you're painting with oils, I know that they mix. It would probably depend on how thickly you're applying them, but you could definitely give it a try. Let's see. Someone asked, do I paint with oils anymore? I haven't in a really long time. I like the fact that I can layer. That's one of the things about acrylics that I like the most, is that I can layer things and it dries quickly, pretty quickly. A lot quicker than oils do. But no, I haven't painted with oils in a while. You guys who have been watching me for years, I've tried a lot of different things. I've tried mixed media. I like collage. I like acrylics. I do somewhat like oils, but they're not usually my friend when it comes to layering, because you have to wait so long for them to dry. And sometimes I play around with watercolor, but I haven't done that in a really long time either. But I just recently did some video tutorials for my creative community about color and flowers, and we're actually going to be painting, I don't know if you can see this back here. We're going to be painting this one tomorrow, and I'm going to be teaching these flowers we did today, of course, these large pink peonies, and a little trick for creating baby's breath. And we'll do the eucalyptus and the little berries and everything. So we're going to have a full hour-long tutorial. We're going to paint the whole painting. So I'm excited about sharing that with you guys who are members of the creative community. And if you're not and you're interested in joining us, then I put a link here that you can follow and get more information about that. But I hope this was helpful to you. I hope that it will give you something to practice and try and experiment with. And I would love to see your flowers when you paint them. So come back here on my page and let me see them, or send me an email or message me. But I love to see the paintings that you guys are creating. If you're a creative community member, make sure and post your paintings in our private Facebook group, and we will all cheer you on. So I'm going to go for now, and I will see you guys next time.